Hi guys. Alright, so I've got my phone with me today. It might seem a little bit rude, but there's two reasons for it. One, I have guests up at my cabin, and if anything goes wrong, I always have my phone with me just so they can call me and let me know so I can fix things as quickly as possible. Because like I like to tell people, I can't fix a problem you don't tell me about. So if you don't tell me about your problem, it stays your problem. The other reason I have it is, I'm going to do something a little different today. I'm going to review the movie I watched for my movie blog in a video. And I'm not going to be one of those guys who puts a bunch of clips up and then makes fun of them and blah, 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 blah. Partly because I don't want to get tied up in the whole copyright thing with them, even though I know you're allowed to sample parts of it, and I understand the law on that, but YouTube automated system doesn't always. And partly because I don't want to go through the effort of getting the thing on YouTube or wherever and pulling the scenes out. I don't have it on DVD. I watch these things streaming, so getting the scenes to use as clips would be a bit of an issue. So the TV back there is just going to keep running my logo. We're going to talk about that later. I've also noticed, I mentioned in one of my blogs we lost some subscribers. I think it might be because this is all getting a little samey, me in front of the same background, blah, blah, blah. I'll work on that come the new year. I kind of like this background. I like the TV back there. I just need to come up with more interesting things to put on there. And I'm thinking if some of you guys have some ideas, some of your trailers or stuff like that, keep it clean. Not a whole lot of violence, not a whole lot of, no nudity in it. And it'll always be silent because I don't want to have to yell over it. But if you have something that back there will make some sense and not be too terribly distracting, but maybe a little subliminally advertising for you, let me know, and we'll see what we can do. All right, so the movie I watched is called Dark City. See, I already got it wrong. The movie I watched is called Dark Future. And Dark Future takes Westworld and Future World and kind of spins it on its head. So in the future, the park is full of humans, and it's cyborgs who come to get out their pent-up, lizard brain kind of desires, right? So they use the humans as, I think this actually, the description actually says that they're forced to live in an underground thing where they're serving as prostitutes and slaves to cyborgs. There's not a whole lot of that shown, though, okay? So don't worry about it. I mean, it's alluded to, it's hinted at, it's not, there's no nudity. And the thing that got me, and the reason I'm glad they didn't show much of that, is this movie really is one of those things that, like, as a preteen, you'd have watched and then played with your friends, right? Because the ray guns in it are literally toys. They're toys I recognize. I think they put an extension barrel on it, but I don't know if back in 94 in Russia the toy ray gun looked like that. But it had the top with the LED lights, well, the lights, anyway, they probably weren't LED back in 94, with the lights that would go boop, 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 boop. They never show it that way, but that's the gun. I recognize it. You could get it at any drugstore back then for like $6.99. The costumes, okay, were exactly what you picture in the future. The bad guys all wear orange jumpsuits, and the good guys are dressed from various points of history. This was a brilliant tactic, by the way, because they had these different kinds of sets they could use, like a Victorian-looking house and things like that. And the characters were dressed to go with the place. So like one of the bars is a 1930s theme. It looked more like 1920s to me, but they corrected it and said 1930s America. And the thing about it is, so this way it gives it that timeless feel where everybody's dressed in history, and it fits in with the whole idea of a fun park for adults to experience different points of history, right? The same way Westworld was and Future World. So it's a kind of neat concept, and the costuming worked that way. Then we get into the whole thing of, why they're keeping the humans. Wasn't just for their baser needs. Of course, there's more evil behind it. There's a barrier that keeps the humans in their world and the cyborgs in theirs. Or the cyborgs are able to go back and forth, but it keeps the humans out of the cyborgs' world. The barrier is one of those globes with lightning in it. That's what controls it. And it's through one archway. I mean, so the entire world is split with this one archway you could barely drive a moving truck through, which I think is pretty funny. But it's it's that small scale movie. It stars. See, that's why I kept the phone here so I could look this stuff up with my old brain. It stars Darby Hinton, who you may know from Malibu Express, or you may not, because not everybody's seen him. But he was that kind of 90s cable television hero guy. So he would be in a lot of these made for cable movies. What I liked about this movie is for 1985, its special effects were outstanding. The design was exactly what you'd expect. Its image of the future was kind of cool. And the lasers and the lightning and the explosions and the squibs and everything were great for 1985. Came out in 1994. So even then, it was, even in 94, it was a little retro-y, right? But now it's just so retro perfect. The other thing about it is the action sequences are so stilted. So there's a lot of laser gunplay, which I love, they call them disruptors, but those toy guns are shooting an awful lot for a cheap movie. And there's squibs blowing up on the cyborgs and blood packs on the people. So this is how it would go. Guy shoots, right? And the bad guy gets shot and stands there for a second. And then the squib goes up and he goes, oh! And jumps over a table. I mean, it's just so stilted. The fight scenes, the hand-to-hand, are actually better paced than the shootouts. They'll, with their guns like this. There was one point where they're just kind of doing this with their guns. Just not shooting anything. And the good guys, that they're pointing that gun out, trying to find them in the dark, don't do anything. They don't shoot back. They don't run. You've got to see it to understand what I'm talking about. So it's action on top of action, but so edited so strange. I don't want to say poorly. It's more strangely that, the action just doesn't flow correctly. And I think part of it is they wanted to make sure, this was costing a lot of money every time they blew a squib out. They wanted to make sure you saw it. So they were rolling well before it would go. And then it would go, and the actor would have to react, to the squib. So he wouldn't already be in the motion when the squib went off, because if he was in motion when the squib went off, then you might not catch it, right? So that's my guess. I can't tell you for sure, but that's my guess. And if you watch some of my movies, you'll catch it. Every so often. I try so hard not to get it. But there'll be a little slip of a frame, right? And I have to keep going back and fixing it and tightening it up. And then I'll go back and watch the full movie, and boom, there it is again. It makes me crazy. When characters are walking and talking, they should already be moving. You should never see them standing someplace unless they're standing there for a second talking and decide to move. But there's always that thing where, like, okay, these characters are coming down a hallway. And it's supposed to look like they've been coming down the hallway for a couple of seconds and you catch them, right? So you shot them maybe from one angle, right? You shot them from the side, crossing the hallway, and now you're catching them from the front. But they were there waiting for you to say action. You say action. They start walking and talking. If you don't clip it, if you clip it after you said action instead of after they've taken 2 steps, you see them stand there and start to walk. And so now that's bad enough when that happens. I mean, it's so obvious, and I've seen it in some TV shows and movies lately, especially indie movies, you catch it. But imagine that in an action scene, in a fight scene, in a shootout. It's just hilarious. So the movie takes its usual course of, the hero trying to get people behind him and stuff like that, so there's some intrigue. There's some very stoic acting. There's some very staccato acting. Right? And I believe that's because it was an American-Russian, joint film, and it was shot in Russia. And I think the Russian actors were doing a lot of stuff phonetically, and they were trying to bring something to it, but I don't know if they always knew exactly what they were saying, or they were having trouble pronouncing the words, and it kind of shows. But overall, the production design, the lack of the number of people they needed, notwithstanding, to make it a believable world, and stuff like that, and the solid, like, everybody wears an orange jumpsuit on the bad guy side, except for the masters, or what do they call them? I don't know. People who take care of the other people. So the humans think that they're the patrons. The humans think they're being taken care of, but they're being taken care of like cattle, right? So there's not much costuming except what I described. There's not a whole lot of people. There's more people than you'd expect, but it's supposed to be like what's left of the world population. But the story itself follows along pretty nicely. The character's motivation makes sense, which if you've read any of these blogs, I complain about a lot when it doesn't. And it comes to a pretty big, ending. One of the interesting things, though, too, at the end is there's this lab set. And so most of the movie's been on the darker side. And then you get into on the other side of the barrier, there's this much bigger thing. But even on the other side, the sets are, fairly well thought out. But then when they'll step into a specific room, it's like my studio. It's just this small little space. So the lab itself, this futuristic lab with lasers and stuff, is, you know, a 12 by 14 room with plastic sheeting on the walls. And I expect that from me, but I thought this movie had more going. But really, if you like any of the sci-fi from like the 60s and 70s and the mid 80s kind of effects in it, seek this thing out. It's rolling on Amazon Prime right now. It's just really cheesy retro fun. And it's got, you know, your heroes and your bad guys and your twists, and it's just really, you know, it's one of those things that you wish you saw when you were a kid so you could be the cyborg and chase your friends around, or be the good guy and blast cyborgs all day and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So that's it. So let me know how you guys like the video format as opposed to the typing. I was chopping wood yesterday and I hurt my wrist, and typing is a little tough for me today. So I thought I'd try this. So here it was. All right. Let me know if you like this better. I might go back to writing for a while, you know, the typing for a while, or switch back and forth, depending on how much studio time I have, how quiet I think it'll be in the house, and things like that. All right.